Hi everyone, welcome to The Tea with My Bookshelf. Today we're delighted to be speaking with Zain Saeed, who's going to be talking about his debut novel, Little America. I just finished this book last night, and what I loved about it was how accessible the writing was. And also, if you're a Karachiite, this book will really resonate with you. So without further ado, let's have some tea. Congratulations, Zain, on your debut novel, Little America. Tell us about the moment when you felt that you had to write this book.
I think I've always been meant to write this book, mostly because I think the kind of place that we grew up in, that I grew up in at least, I think I couldn't have gotten away with it without writing a book like this. But I think if you're talking about a particular moment, I remember very, very vividly that I once was meeting a friend of mine when I was living in the US, a friend of mine from Pakistan. And we were just sitting at a Panda Express in a mall, just talking about love and other things. And this friend of mine just went off and said, hey, it would have been so nice, it would have been so fun if there would have been someone to guide us about all of this when we were younger. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like a guru of sorts. And someone who could tell us how this dating thing worked when we were younger, beyond like, you know, what your parents tell you or beyond what you can get from TV shows. Particularly something that was kind of more related to our context, like in Karachi, in Pakistan. And that just got me thinking about a guy like this, to create a character like this. And I don't know what happened after that, but one thing led to another, and suddenly there was a building in the middle of CV.
A germ was planted.
Yeah, and suddenly there was, Little America.
Wow, amazing. So I'm going to go a bit into the financial aspect of writing, which is a bit dismal, but let's get into it. There doesn't seem to be a huge financial incentive to become a writer in many cases. How do we change this? And why do you think this pursuit is still worth it for journalists and authors and, writers?
I think we change this by first making sure that people who can afford to pay other writers, as in people who start off publishing ventures who can afford to pay other writers, can actually do that. Because there's obviously in Pakistan this established group of publishers, of like traditional publishers who've been around forever, but their contracts and the way that they deal with writers aren't the greatest. I wouldn't even say they're not close to international standards, they're not at any standard, really.
Wow, okay.
And I think the way to change that would be for there to be these little, bubbles of joy, these little publishers that pop up and start to challenge like the status quo as it's existed for so long. I think once that happens and once these kind of big publishers begin to lose writing and begin to lose books, I think that might be when they begin to invest more in writers and local writing. And that was, again, one of the reasons that I chose not to go down that route, but to do something different and to pick a publisher that was new and that seemed to be doing really, really good things. And that didn't fall under the usual banner of the three big publishers in the country who weren't really doing a great job anyway. I think that would be the way to do it, just more competition, just to force the powers that be to put more money into the business, and then everyone will grow together.
And do you think we have like an inbuilt, inherent audience in Pakistan where we can be self-sustaining as far as writing and publishing is concerned?
I think so. I teach at a university, right? And I teach every semester. I get 60, 70 new students. And out of those, there's at least 30 or 40 who are really, really into writing. Again, they probably don't read as much as they should, but that's what my job as a professor, to tell them to read and to show them what to read. And eventually, every year, whenever a batch graduates, there's always about 20 to 25 students who really want to be writers. And they're curious. They're really curious about how the publishing industry here works. They're really curious about how do you get a book from like this idea I have to, an actual physical copy. And they're really excited by these avenues, like self-publishing avenues, or these new small publishers who just feel more accessible to them and also feel younger. These new publishers, they feel more contemporary. They feel like they're with the times, compared to something, that's been publishing textbooks for 25 years. For young people, for young people, these kind of bright new publishers, they're very attractive.
Yeah, you have to be relevant and you have to be contemporary.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, cool. You had mentioned that you teach creative writing at Habib University. What do you think is different and exciting about this generation of students as compared to the older ones?
These students are not afraid to talk about themselves. And I don't mean that.
Is that good or bad?
I don't mean that in a bad way at all. They're very open. They're very okay with being vulnerable. They're very okay with just putting their lives out there.
Wow.
Not just on paper, but in conversation. So creative workshops, for me, become this kind of therapy group, as it were. I remember when the pandemic started and our classes moved from in-person to online, I was teaching a creative writing workshop at that time. And that group just became this source of comfort for everyone. Everyone was like looking forward to just being somewhere where they could just talk about what was going on in the world and then also put it down on paper. And I don't think that would have been possible when I was at university because we weren't that open.
Our teachers were not at that level with us.
No, and we weren't that open. Like, I couldn't imagine telling my professors the things that these students are comfortable telling the entire class. And I think that's a really, really good thing about this generation. It's going to hopefully lead to so much more powerful writing coming out of it.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
that's the hope. Okay. When you think of a writer, you usually end up visualizing someone who's moody and brooding and a bit kind of sad. And do you think that real writing, like writing with substance, comes from a dark place and heartbreak and pain? And what do you think of this stereotype?
I think the stereotype is really a stereotype that probably died a really long time ago.
Okay.
Coming from a place that I do, which is having spent a lot of time with other writers during, my MFA and other just kind of adventures in life. Most writers don't look like that. At least most of the people I've met who write.
They were happy people?
No, they weren't happy. Okay. I wouldn't say
they were like normal. Yeah.
Happy people. They were very reflective people.
Okay.
There were people who were always thinking. There were people who were always worried and anxious and always trying to type something out. I don't think I've met writers who are not, let's say, not reflective. I don't think I've met writers who don't think. I think it just comes with the territory. If you're a thinker, if you're someone who's always, curious about what's going on, if you're trying to observe, then naturally, the world being as it is, you will get a little, let's say, you wouldn't be chirpy all the time.
I agree. So you're saying writers are in general not chirpy and bubbly?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Again, I also think that they can be when they're not in their writing moods or in their zones when they need to write. But yeah, I'm yet to meet a writer who's just sitting at a laptop and very excited and typing away. It's always like some sort of quiet, reflective zone that everyone seems to need to be in to write.
And do you think that's the reason why like happy, fluffy books are not considered real writing? Is it true that you need to write something very deep and existential for it to be considered real writing?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think really funny, fluffy books can also come out of a place of kind of quietness and place of brooding and a place of just thinking, really. I'm a big fan of funny books and funny writing, and and I've always found those books to have almost as much of an impact as some of the sadder books, some of the sadder quote-unquote books. I think for me, the best mix of, I think for any art form really, any narrative art form, it's something that can make you think, something that can entertain you. Something that can make you laugh, but also kind of destroy you at the same time. Yeah. Like that's the mix I always look for in books. And I think, those can come out of several places.
One thing I noticed when we went for the launch, Habib University, very similar to kind of Little America, lends itself, I felt, to being your authentic self. And so when you were writing this book, was it almost like wishful thinking? Okay.
Kind of, yeah. I think the entire book is wishful thinking is based on this idea that, the what if idea. What if something like this happened? What if we kind of extended our private bubbles and put those out into the world, right? Put them in front of everybody else who's not a part of those bubbles or is not a part of other similar bubbles. And that was the kind of wishful thinking that I think led to this. I wasn't involved with Habib when I was writing this book. I just happened to come into Habib after this was already out into the out to publishers and whatnot. But when I did get to Habib, I did have a very, very similar feeling, which is this is again a place that's doing something really weird. It's a place that's doing something that I would have considered very
great.
And also very risky. The kinds of courses that we get to teach, the kind of academic freedom that we have is second to none, at least in this city, even in the country really, because I've taught at other places here as well. So it really did kind of, because when I wrote this, I was like, this can't happen. And then I was at Habib and I was like, hey, maybe there's something to it. Maybe something like this is possible. It was wishful thinking. And also kind of like a prophecy that was fulfilled when I ended up in Habib.
That's really cool. Okay, you had said, in your book launch, you said to write about a place, you need to get out of that place. I really that really resonated with me. Why do you think that is? To put your distance between yourself and the place you're writing about.
I think if we specify the place to mean Karachi, I don't think Karachi is a place that lets you rest. It's always, it's ever present. You're always thinking about Karachi. When you're here, you're always thinking about what's happening, what's outside, what the weather. It's really hot, and if it's rainy season, then you're not thinking about anything but rain.
And pakoras.
Exactly. So Karachi doesn't let you think as a city. So it wasn't until I think I left and I was in like a very small city somewhere in Germany where I had nothing else to think about other than just my studies and what I was studying. I was like, what else do I think about? And even then there was this constant kind of memory of Karachi. Okay, so this is, I don't know why.
No, it's a powerful force. I really do think that. I think you can take the person out of Karachi, but I think Karachi, if you're truly from here, doesning leave you.
It
no matter
really
where you go.
It really doesn't. And I think with that perspective, I was able to see a lot of things that I would otherwise have ignored living in Karachi. We talk about the usual things with the bijli and the traffic and whatnot, but when you're there, you're actually thinking about things like, smells.
I know.
And you're thinking
the sensory experience of being in the city.
Exactly. Things that you would ignore if you lived here. So I think that's why it helps.
Cool. We noticed that you're musically inclined. So please tell us something about that. That's pretty cool and exciting.
That started A levels. I used to have these kind of daydreams when I was a child where I would always imagine myself doing something. So
like being a rock star?
That was one.
Okay.
That was one. Very, very particular kind of rock star. There used to be this grunge song called Higher by this band called Creed.
Yeah,
and I would always imagine myself imagine myself performing that in front of people.
Wow.
That was one daydream. The other was like playing cricket for Pakistan. Not a great cricketer by any stretch of the imagination, but again, having grown up here, that was the only thing. That was like one of two things on my mind. Finally got the opportunity to do something about that at school during my A-levels. And after that, just at LUMS, I was part of the music society, so we got to perform a lot on stage.
That's really cool.
And
that must be fun, and it's such a great hobby to have.
It is. It's a lot of fun, and again, things like writing, they're individual pursuits and they're lonely pursuits. But when you're making music with other people, that's how I've stayed connected with my friends from college.
Amazing.
Honestly, it's also great to just connect and stay
For
connected.
sure, definitely. Okay, so now we have some rapid fire questions for you. Hope you're ready.
I am.
Okay, and be quick. All right. What is the last book you read?
Oh wow. You need to. Oh whoa. I've completely forgotten.
Okay, you can think.
This is a tough question. What was the last book I read?
You can't say Little America.
No, I haven't read it.
Okay.
I haven't read it in years. The last book I read is The Intimacies, Katie Kitamura. Just came out.
Okay, cool. What keeps you up at night?
Thinking about what I'm going to write about the next day.
Okay, that's good. What one thing would you change about yourself?
Stop trying to fix things.
Oh, you're a fixer.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. What advice would you have given your younger self?
Also, stop trying to fix things.
Okay.
There's
But
a
you're
reason
still
we're
fixing
here.
things.
There's a reason we're here.
Okay. Where is the one place you would live given a chance?
I would live in Granada in Spain. I spent 3 months there on an internship.
Oh, wow. I like how you air quoted
it was
that.
an
Okay, we
internship.
won't get into that right
No.
now. Okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Okay, yeah, I agree. What's the worst and best thing about being a man?
Worst thing about being a man, you're always trying to be a man. Trying to be a man. That's probably the worst thing.
Yeah.
The best thing is, I get to be outside.
That is true. Best cuisine in the world?
Mexican.
Yeah. Okay, sure. What bad movie do you like?
Oh, the George Clooney Batman. I don't know which one that is.
Oh my God.
That is a really
Wow,
bad movie,
okay.
but also love it.
Okay. Favorite band or singer?
Porcupine Tree. It's this progressive rock band. Really weird.
Okay, I will Google that.
Yeah.
Okay. Zain, thank you so much for sitting with us. You guys, please read Little America. It was excellent, really engaging, and I would highly recommend it.